Most people think competence naturally creates authority, but it doesn't. In fact, highly capable people often communicate in ways that quietly reduce their perceived confidence. Not because they are weak, not because they lack intelligence, but because they feel responsible for being accurate. And that changes the way they speak. Today I want to break down something I call the competence trap. The communication pattern where intelligent people unintentionally sound less certain, less decisive, and less authoritative than people who actually know far less than they do. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. Highly competent people usually carry more mental weight during conversations. They see complexity, nuance, risk, exceptions, consequences. So when they speak, they often try to include all of it. And that creates a strange paradox. The more knowledgeable someone becomes, the more cautious their communication can sound. Meanwhile, the least informed person in the room often sounds the most certain, because certainty is easy when you oversimplify reality. And this creates one of the biggest communication distortions in business. Confidence gets mistaken for competence. The competence trap usually reveals itself through verbal hesitation. Phrases like, "I could be wrong, but," or "maybe," or "I'm not completely sure." There are a lot of variables, or technically, possibly. Now, accuracy matters, precision matters, but constant verbal softening changes how people experience your message emotionally. The brain does not only evaluate information, it evaluates stability. And when someone sounds constantly uncertain, people subconsciously feel uncertain listening to them, even if the content itself is correct. Most intelligent people are trying to avoid being wrong, but powerful communicators focus on something different: clarity. Not recklessness, not arrogance, clarity. Because conversations are not academic papers. People are not grading footnotes during a meeting. They are deciding whether they trust your direction, whether you sound composed, whether you sound grounded under pressure. And ironically, over-explaining often signals internal tension, not intelligence. Here's the shift. Instead of leading with uncertainty, lead with structure. Weak communicators say, "Well, there are several factors involved." Strong communicators say, "Here's what matters most." The single shift changes the emotional frame of the conversation. Authority is often less about dominance and more about reducing cognitive chaos for other people. The strongest communicators simplify pressure. They don't amplify it. Now let's be careful here. Confidence without competence becomes manipulation. That is not what this episode is about. Real authority still requires substance, but competence alone is not enough. If your delivery feels scattered, defensive, or overloaded, people may never fully recognize the value of what you know. Because communication is not just information transfer, it is psychological positioning. Imagine two executives presenting the same data. The first says, there are probably multiple directions we could explore here." And the second one says, "Here's the direction I recommend and here's why." Who sounds more trustworthy? Usually the second person does, even before the evidence is fully disclosed, because calm structure creates perceived leadership, and most people underestimate how quickly those impressions form. The competence trap is dangerous because it affects the people who often deserve authority the most. The people who think deeply, the people who care about accuracy, the people who actually understand complexity. But if you constantly communicate uncertainty, The room may hand influence to someone less capable simply because they sound more certain. And in high-stakes conversations, perception shapes power long before facts fully surface. So maybe the goal is not becoming louder. Maybe it's learning how to communicate clarity without abandoning intelligence. Because intelligence that cannot project stability often gets ignored. And that changes careers, relationships, negotiations, and leadership itself. Thank you for listening. This is Speaking with Intent, and I'll see you in the next episode.